The room is almost dark, only the soft blue glow of screens and the quiet hiss of cooling fans fill the main control hall at Mount Wilson Observatory. Outside, the rebuilt domes sit under clear, cold air. Inside, machines do most of the work. Dr. Lang sits alone at his console. He is tired, gray at the temples, glasses reflecting lines of live data. For decades, he has checked stars that should say nothing, stars called inert, logged as dead, watched only so their silence can prove the instruments still work. Tonight, one of those dead stars is not silent. On his screen, a light curve steps upward, then flat, then up again. Not a smooth wave, but sharp, sudden levels. It looks less like a star and more like a staircase trapped in light. In the side analysis room, Emily Park squints at another monitor. She runs a fast pattern scan on the same star. The plot shifts, rotates, and then freezes. Lines sharpen. What had looked like random noise now shows shapes. Rectangles align in careful rows. Arches appear. Towers rise out of pure numbers. She lays a simple grid over the plot. Ratios repeat with exact precision. 3-5, 5-8, 8-13, classic harmonic sets. Like floor plans, sliced into light. Emily sends the file to Lang. He first thinks it is another bad filter, another machine glitch. He resets the feed. The pattern vanishes, then grows again from raw light, step by careful step. Every 11.3 minutes, the same structure appears, down to the last pixel. Half a world away, deep under Yale, Professor Nathan Doyle turns the pages of an old atlas. His fingers hover over a faded title: Tartarian Great Cities, star-shaped forts, vast domes, radial streets like sunbursts. Later, the three images will sit side by side: the ancient city maps, the strange star steps, and the clean digital overlay that proves the match. For now, only one fact is clear. The sky is sending blueprints for cities that should not exist, from a star that started shining long before Earth was born. And Dr. Victor Lang, the man who has spent a lifetime saying there is no signal, finally sees something he cannot explain away. In 24-3, Mount Wilson does not look busy. The air above Los Angeles is clean for the first time in centuries. The old smog is gone, washed out of the sky by 100 years of careful work. Forests have grown back along the mountain slopes. At night, the city below glows in quiet rings of soft blue fusion light. Up on the ridge, the observatory sits like a cluster of pale shells. Most of the work inside is automatic. Arrays of sensors stare at the sky, night after night, scanning thousands of stars at once. The building hums with steady power and slow fans. Humans are there mostly to watch the thinking machines, step in when something breaks, and sign off on unusual finds. Dr. Victor Lang likes this quiet. He walks the same route every evening, up the ramp past Dome 3, across the glass hall where the old 100-inch telescope sits in a museum shell, and into the main data room. The hall remembers the early days of astronomy. Photos of the first deep sky images line the walls. Lang respects these ghosts of science. They worked with plates and chemicals. He works with qubits and neural filters. But the question is the same: what is really out there? He has made a career out of saying what is not out there. No aliens, no secret messages, no cosmic miracles, just nature and math. The world needs that voice. Twice in his life, the public lost its mind over false signals. A flicker from a satellite, mistaken for a message. A data error turned into a story of star gods. Each time, Lang helped take the story apart, piece by piece, until nothing fake remained. So when the system pings him about an anomaly in a dead star's light stream, his first reaction is a small sigh. Which catalog number? He asks the room. No human answers. A soft chime lights up the tag, MWDR1187, an inert remnant in a quiet patch of sky. Logged, measured, forgotten. He taps his console. The last 12 hours of data sweep across the main screen. For 10 hours, the line is flat, a perfect, steady glow. Then, at 22:07 observatory time, the pattern starts. Sharp steps up, long flat plateaus, sudden drops, then up again. No. Lang mutters, more to himself than the machines, not you too. He opens the filter settings and checks each layer. Instrument drift, calibration errors, atmospheric scatter, quantum noise. The usual culprits wipe away like dust. The steps remain. In the side room, Emily Park is already on it. Emily is 15 years younger than Lang and faster with code. She drinks bitter green tea that smells like grass and works the quiet graveyard shift because she likes to have the data streams mostly to herself. While Lang watches the raw light curve, she pulls the same feed into a pattern recognition tool she wrote during her doctoral work. She talks to the system as if it were a shy friend. Okay, 1087. Let's see what you're hiding. The tool stretches time, converts brightness into symbols, and then into blocks. Noise should stay messy. Real structure should clean up. After a few seconds, the rough line turns into a grid of square tiles. Emily frowns. The tiles are not random. Rows and columns align into shapes. Long halls, rounded spaces, narrow spines like streets. She clicks rotate. The image turns 90 degrees. Now it looks like a plan view, the kind used by engineers and city planners. Angles snap into place at perfect 90 and 45 degrees. Circles sit inside squares with neat ratios. Her heart beats faster. She has seen this kind of ratio work before, in studies of old cathedrals and forts. Victor, she calls, louder than she means to. Lang walks in, annoyed but curious. She sends the plot to the main wall. It's a glitch, Emily, he says automatically. You have a bias. You like finding shapes. He stands with his arms crossed, ready to explain why the brain sees patterns where none exist. It is a speech he has given many times. Just look, she says. He looks. The figure on the wall is not perfect. There are gaps and fuzz around the edges, but the core is clear, a central rectangle, flanked by two smaller wings, a half circle at one end like an apse, lines that could be buttresses, columns of repeated dots in exact spacing. Lang feels a pinch of something in his chest, hope, but also fear. He forces his voice to stay flat. How often does this repeat? The machine found a period. The pattern builds up tile by tile each cycle, natural with built-in Fibonacci ratios and perfect right angles. Emily shakes her head. Look at the checksums. She brings up another panel. At the end of each 11.3-minute cycle, the star's light dips, holds, then flashes 3 short spikes. The spikes match the sum of the previous blocks in that cycle. It's doing error correction, she says. If some of the light is blocked by dust, it fixes itself on the next round. This is structured. The word signal hangs in the air, unspoken. Lang does not want to say it. Saying it has a cost. Run the authenticity suite, he orders. Full. Cross-check with every known satellite path, every fusion flare, every local source, and send the raw feed to Deep Space Network. Quiet tag low priority. No headlines. Emily nods. Emily nods. She knows his rules. Nothing leaves Mount Wilson as a signal until it has passed 20 different ways of being wrong. While the tests spin up, the world below keeps turning. In rewilded valleys, wolves prowl. In fusion-lit cities, people sleep in tall, silent towers, trusting the steady hum of grids that do not fail. Orbital telescopes keep watch on asteroids and comets, adjusting paths so nothing large hits the planet by surprise. Climate control satellites glow faintly as they shift tiny bits of sunlight. In New Haven, far away, Professor Nathan Doyle unlocks a door deep under Yale. The archival vaults smell like old paper and cold stone. He likes it that way. Screens are useful, but the real history is bound in cloth and leather, map edges frayed by human hands. Doyle is thin, with dark hair streaked white at the sides, and sharp eyes that miss little. His field is lost cartography, old maps that show cities that no longer exist, or perhaps never did. Labels that confuse historians. Hyperborea, Tartaria, cities of the north beyond the winds. Tonight he is not looking for stars. He is looking for a missing city. A week ago, a student pointed out a strange fact. Certain map layouts from the 18th and 19th Centuries look like cut-and-paste copies of each other, just with different names, same star forts, same radial streets. Only the labels change. He requested the older atlases, the rare ones they keep underground. He sets an 1843 World Atlas on a padded table and turns to a familiar plate. The ink is faded. In the center of a vast land, a label reads, Tartarian Great Cities. Around it, star-shaped walls, perfect angles, huge domes taller than any church. Most historians call these decorative fictions, artists showing off or copying earlier mistakes. Doyle has never believed that explanation. The repetition is too careful. Someone, at some time, saw these cities with their own eyes, or held a guide that told them where each line should go. He traces a bastion with one finger. Later, he will see this same bastion rise out of a star's light stream. Back at Mount Wilson, the tests finish. Emily reads off the results. No local interference, all sky, no satellite paths, no station bleed. Spectral lines match MWDR-187's known profile plus modulated brightness. It's not something in orbit. Lang's jaw tenses. What about the Deep Space Network? They confirm variation from their own angle, Emily says. Different telescopes, same steps. They think we flipped the axes. I told them we didn't. Lang rubs his eyes. He has spent his life cutting down false hope. He knows how badly people want the universe to speak to them. But this does not look like hope. It looks like math. It looks like intent. He pulls up a 3D view. The light curve becomes a solid, a shape in time, rising and falling with exact symmetry. What if it's not a message? He says quietly. What if it's data storage? A record? Like engraving on light? Emily glances at him. Of what? He hesitates. The word feels too wild, even in this quiet room. Buildings, he says. It looks like buildings. They spend the rest of the night feeding the light stream into more advanced decoders, image filters, fractal testers, shape matchers trained on human architecture from every age. The machines spit out probabilities. High match with Gothic floor plans, one model says. High match with star forts and radial city plans, says another. Anomalous similarity to Tartarian city maps, reference set attached, says a third. Pulling from digital archives Doyle helped scan years before. Lang freezes. Tartarian, he repeats. Why would that come up? Emily pulls the reference set onto the main wall. Old maps spread across the screen. Strange cities with star-shaped walls, long avenues, vast central halls. She drags the star's light pattern and drops it over a Tartarian diagram. Lines click into place. The match is not perfect, but close enough to set the room spinning. Towers line up. Walls follow the same arcs. Domes share the same footprint. Emily breathes out slowly. How far is MWDR-1D7 again? She asks. Lang's voice is thin. About 12 billion light years. She does the math without thinking. The light they see left that star before Earth existed, before the sun, before the Milky Way was the shape it is now. So these designs, she says, are older than our planet. The room is silent except for the low hiss of cooling fans. Far below, the world sleeps, believing humans invented their own cities. Up here, two scientists stare at proof that city plans older than Earth are arriving from a dead star. By the next week, Mount Wilson is no longer quiet. The anomaly is still classified, but data does not stay still. Deep Space Network has confirmed the pattern from 3 separate stations: lunar orbit, Mars relay, and a free-flying array near Jupiter. All see the same 11.3-minute cycle, the same sharp steps. Lang knew secrecy would never last. He also knows that rushing to the press with half-tested claims would ruin everything, so he does what he always does: build a wall of facts. He calls in specialist teams. They gather in the main conference dome: signal engineers, quantum optics experts, pattern scientists. Emily sits with them, her tablet full of graphs. Lang stands at the front, calm on the surface, stomach tight. "We are not calling this a message," he begins. "Not yet. We are studying a structured light emission from MWDR 1887. Our first job is to prove what it is not. He brings up a chart of natural star variations, pulsars, magnetars, flaring dwarfs, the wild beats of dying stars. None of them look like neat steps and plateaus. We checked for all known natural causes, he says. Plasma instabilities, accretion disks, gravitational lensing. The pattern stays. It is brightness modulation with timing control down to microseconds. A signal engineer named Rao leans forward. Show the redundancy blocks. Emily taps her screen. The main display changes. Lines of brightness values turn into streams of zeros and ones. Every 11 minutes, the same sequence appears. Inside the sequence are smaller blocks that repeat with slight changes. These are checksums, Rao says. Standard practice in data transmission. Some of the last n bits, appended at the end of each block, so the receiver can detect errors. Whatever is doing this cares if the data gets through. A younger analyst points to another graph. There is also forward error correction. See here? Read Solomon-style patterns. It is correcting lost chunks without asking for a resend. Lang nods slowly. Error correction is not something random stars do. It is something designed systems do. Computers, satellites, communication beacons. Rao sits back. It's a signal, he says simply. Lang does not argue. The room feels the shift. Signal, yes, Lang says. But of what? Emily brings up the geometric reconstruction they have been refining. With more days of data, the shapes are far cleaner now. Missing tiles have been filled in by comparing cycles. Noise has been averaged out. The result makes the room go still. On the screen is a city, not in color, not with cars or trees, but in pure geometry. Walls, rings, radiating streets, massive central halls, dozens of towers with the same base and varied heights. This is the structured payload, Emily says. Layer 1 is a single large building. Layer 2 adds surrounding structures, smaller halls, support towers. Layer 3, she toggles a control. The image pulls back. Layer 3 shows this building as part of a wider urban zone. The shape widens into a vast plan, star-shaped bastions at the edges. Canals, bridges, circular plazas aligned in neat grids. Rao breathes out softly. It's a city. And not just any city, Emily says. Watch this. She brings up an overlay tool and pulls in a map from the archive, a Tartarian Great City plate, scanned from a 19th century atlas. The old ink lines float next to the modern light map. With a drag of her finger, she slides the star city on top of the Tartarian map. Angles line up, main streets match. Outer walls trace the same star points. Dome footprints sit on top of each other with less than a meter of difference, scaled. Probability of random match, Lang asks. The machine responds in its dry voice. Less than 1 in 10 to the 23rd, assuming no prior constraint. The room is very quiet. Who first noticed the Tartarian Connection? Rao asks. An old map set in the Global Archive, Emily says. Tag says Yale donation, Doyle collection. Bring him in, Lang says. 2 days later, Professor Nathan Doyle walks into Mount Wilson, under a cold, clear sky. He has never been to this observatory before. He takes in the domes and glass walls with interest, as if they were part of a museum exhibit. Inside, he meets Lang and Emily in the main dome. You are the man who gave my maps a new life without telling me, he says dryly, as he shakes Lang's hand. We scanned everything, Lang replies. We did not know those old city plates would matter. Doyle's eyes flick to the main display, still showing the star city. He goes very still. That is from the light curve, he asks. Yes, Emily says. This is direct reconstruction from MWDR 187. No artistic input. Doyle walks closer. His fingers twitch, as if he wants to touch the screen. I have seen this city, he says quietly, in at least 4 atlases, with 4 different names. Sometimes Tartarian Great City, sometimes Imperial Capital of the North, sometimes no label at all, just a proud engraving. He looks at Lang. Historians called them fantasy. Doyle continues. Publisher flourishes, copying errors, but the ratios were too good, the layouts too consistent. I always felt there was a source we had lost. Emily brings up a split view, star plan on the left, an 1821 Tartarian plate on the right. Please, she says, tell us what you see. Doyle studies both. These outer points, he says, are bastions. They let defenders fire along the walls. Classic star fort design, perfect for Cannon Age and earlier. But these inner rings, he taps the air where circular walls sit inside squares. Those were always strange, too perfect, too many layers. No known city on Earth built them fully as shown. The maps were always ahead of our actual constructions, as if someone was aiming for this and kept failing. Lang listens, mind racing. We ran city overlay simulations, he says. We took known major cities from history and tried to fit them onto the star plan. Many half-match. Look, he brings up another image. Now the star city sits under the street map of Paris. Certain avenues line up. Major plazas fall near the star plan circles. London, Emily says, swapping layers. Another partial match appears. New York, St. Petersburg, dozens of cities, each a little bit like the star plan, but incomplete, as if humans were building parts of a pattern they only half remembered. Doyle nods slowly. I suspected something like this, that those Tartarian maps were not pure invention, but an ideal plan, a template. Too grand to finish with our tools, our politics, our wars. He looks back at the star image. And you are telling me this ideal did not start on Earth. Lang brings up a distance chart. MWDR 187 is 12 billion light-years away. The universe was young when that light left. Our sun did not exist. Our planet did not exist. Doyle grips the back of a chair. So whoever built this city, or designed it, lived and died before Earth was even dust, he says. Or Emily says softly, this star is not the original builder, but a storage site, a library, a node in a wider network of nodes that hold city plans for others to find. Rao, listening from the side, chuckles dryly. A Tartarian library in the sky, he says. Nice title for the funding proposal. They laugh, but not much. The idea sits heavy. Lang shifts to another slide. We tested the signal for structure beyond the city shapes, he says. Compression hints, nested data. There is more, layers we have not fully decoded. The graphs appear showing rising complexity at deeper bit depths. Bursts of data that look like higher resolution blueprints. Even hints of three-dimensional planning. The first layer gives us ground plans, Emily says. The second layer includes vertical data, heights, arch spans, dome thickness. The third layer, we think it includes infrastructure paths. She toggles a view, and lines glow beneath the city blocks. Tunnels, channels, conduits, energy distribution, Rao says. Transport, data. It's a full urban system, not just pretty buildings. And there is error correction all the way down, Emily adds. Whatever set this up meant for the plans to survive across unbelievable time. It uses robust coding, self-checks, redundancy. Doyle sits, suddenly looking tired. So the universe has, hidden in its light, a library of city designs, passed forward for billions of years, he says. We thought our ancestors dreamed these up, but they may have been receivers, interpreters of something older. Lang watches him. How do Tartarian cities behave in your records? Lang asks. Do they appear suddenly, then vanish? Doyle nods. He brings up his own tablet and loads a chart. Here, he says, first mention of Tartaria and its great cities in European maps around the 16th century. Almost mythic at first. Then, by the 18th and 19th, we get these very detailed city plans. But there is no record of building them. No budgets. No engineering notes. Just finished-looking plans in books. He swipes. Then, after the late 19th century, the name fades. The cities are relabeled or dropped. Some layouts reappear as plans for places like Washington, D.C., or parts of Paris. but always reduced, simplified, never completed to original scale. He looks up. It is as if the template kept resurfacing in human minds, but the world never quite had the means or the will to follow it. Emily remembers the overlay simulations, the way modern cities almost fit, like half-solved puzzles. What if those old mapmakers had their own signal, she asks. Not telescopes like ours, but visions, instruments, hints, or stories passed down from a much older time. Lang raises a hand. Careful, we cannot jump to that yet. There is no proof humans had direct access to this star's data before now. True, Doyle says, but ideas travel in strange ways. Sometimes they appear far earlier than the tech needed to build them. Rao leans toward Lang. What about other stars? He asks. If this is a library, MWDR-187 might not be the only shelf. Lang nods. Using the same decoding scheme, we checked other inert stars on our lists. Early results show nothing as complex as this, but there are a few that show faint, structured steps, weak, faded, maybe older, more damaged nodes. Emily brings up a sky map. Several points are marked in red, spread across the visible universe. Each is a dead or dying star, long observed, never studied this way. If each is a node, she says, then the galaxy may be seeded with these template libraries, cities stored as patterns in light, waiting for anyone with the skills to read them. Doyle sits back, mind racing ahead. That means humanity stepped into an existing system without knowing, he says. When we first sketched star forts, radial cities, grand central halls under domes, we thought those were our own inventions, pride in our skill. He looks at the star city, but maybe we were building from hints of a much older design, a design stored in the sky before we existed, a design many worlds could share. Lang feels the weight of it. For years, he has fought false beliefs, alien saviors, ancient gods, conspiracies that say humans are puppets. This is different. It does not take away human skill or work. It adds a new layer above it. Templates do not remove creativity, he says, half to himself. A melody does not remove the composer. But if the melody is older than the composer, what does that make the composer? Emily looks at him. Maybe part of a choir, she says. He almost smiles. Rao breaks the moment. We still have to understand the rest of the data, he says. We know these are blueprints. We do not know their purpose. Are they monuments? Machines? Traps? The word hangs. Doyle glances up sharply. Traps? Any system that modifies an entire planet's layout could also modify its behavior, Rao says. Traffic patterns, energy flow, social dynamics. A planetary-scale grid is not just pretty geometry. It shapes how a civilization lives. Emily pulls up the deepest layer they have partially cracked, under the main city grid. Faint waves spread across what looks like a map of an entire globe. Lines connect cities at regular angles. Nodes glow brighter at certain crossings. We think this is a planetary-scale grid, she says. If this design is built in full, on a whole world, it creates a linked network. Power, transport, information, all in harmony with the same ratios we see in the buildings. Doyle shivers. Template for world systems, he says. Preserved in stars, offered to any species that reaches a certain level of tech. Lang stares at the glowing waves, and we have just shown we can read it, he says quietly, which means, from the point of view of whoever set this up, Earth is now eligible to build it. No one answers. Outside, the sun is setting. The first real stars prick through the darkening sky. Somewhere far beyond sight, an old dying star continues its careful flicker. Bit by bit, cycle by cycle, it sends out the same grand pattern as it has for billions of years. In the control dome, a handful of humans stand at the edge of a new thought. Maybe cities are not just human inventions. Maybe they are part of a library written into the universe itself, waiting for worlds like Earth to pick up the plans and decide what to do with them. Word of the Star City does not stay secret. It never really could. Too many antennas have seen the pattern now. Too many analysts have touched the data. Within a month, a leak from a bored contractor in the Mars relay hits a public mesh forum. A grainy image of the light-built city, tagged alien blueprints, real or hoax. By the time Lang wakes up that morning, the story has already hit 3 major news nets. He sits at his kitchen table in Staff, housing on the mountain, a mug of coffee cooling in his hand, watching a calm anchor smile out of the wall screen. Sources inside the Deep Space Network report a non-natural, fully structured light signal from a distant star, she says. Images circulating online claim it shows a city plan that matches old Tartarian maps once dismissed as fantasy. Governments have not confirmed the story. Private firms are already showing interest. The screen splits. On the left, the star city lines glow. On the right, a tower in Dubai covered in logos, a mega developer. Their spokesperson beams. "We stand ready to help humanity build the first city based on this historic design," she says. "This is not about profit, it is about legacy." Lang turns the screen off. He sits in silence for a moment, then grabs his jacket and walks fast toward the main dome. Inside, the mood is tense. Emily is at her console, surrounded by open links. Rao is arguing with a legal officer over encryption standards. On the main display, a feed from the World Council scrolls with phrases like resource allocation, intellectual property, and security concerns. "Victor," Emily says, eyes wide with a mix of anger and excitement. "They want us to brief a global panel in 6 hours. All of it. Everything." "Of course they do," Lang mutters. "They smell something they can claim." He looks at the new messages piling up on his own console. Requests from city planning boards, offers from fusion grid companies, invitations from institutes he has never heard of that suddenly care very much about his work. "Start a full archive of contact," he says. "No one gets raw data without a record. And we are not giving full decoding keys to private firms." "Not yet," Emily nods. "Already locked. But some people have scraped earlier versions from the leak. They are running their own reconstructions. Look." She brings up a live view of a virtual trade fair. Booths glow with banners, Star City concepts, Tartarian living, MWDR-187 inspired towers. 3D models spin, showing half-understood versions of the plan, with shopping districts and luxury gardens pasted in. Lang feels sick. "They think this is a design brand," he says. "To be fair," Emily replies, "it does look like very good branding." He gives her a look. She sighs. "I know. They are missing the deeper layers. All they have is floor plans and walls, which may be enough to do damage if they drop them onto real land without understanding the rest," Lang says. He thinks of the deepest signals they have not yet told the world about, the faint waves under the city grid, the suspected activation sequence near the end of the data cycle that they have only partly decoded. Doyle arrives 2 hours later, out of breath from the high altitude. "I thought historians would be left out of the first scramble for alien cities," he says, dropping his bag by a chair. "I was wrong. Yale's phones have not stopped ringing. Half the calls want to know how to spell Tartarian. The other half want to buy original atlases for design inspiration." Lang gives him a tired smile. "Welcome to the age of licensed ancient space cities." Doyle's face sobers as he watches a replay of the news net, then the images from the trade fair. "They will build something," he says, "whether we help or not. Some millionaire will put a Starfort resort out in a desert. Some government will sponsor a Heritage of the Universe district beside their capital. They cannot resist. Then we have to stay ahead," Emily says. "If we can model the complete system before they start pouring concrete, we can at least warn them what parts not to copy." Rao appears in the doorway. "We are ready for full 3D reconstruction run," he says, "if you still want to see the whole thing." Lang glances at Doyle and Emily. They all nod. "Do it," Lang says. They move to the larger visualization dome. The walls dim. A flat grid appears under their feet, virtual only, responding to the stars data fed in from the racks below. Rao's voice is low. "Layer 1, primary structures. Lines rise from the grid. Great halls stretch upward, formed from light and math. Domes arch overhead, curves tuned to golden ratios. Towers stand in rings, their windows mere impressions. Layer 2, secondary structures and supports. Smaller buildings fill in, walkways link towers, bridges connect bastions, terraced ramps climb from plaza to plaza. Layer 3. Subsurface infrastructure. The city's floor turns translucent. Beneath it, channels and tunnels glow. Pipes or conduits run in strict patterns. Larger shafts drop deeper, like roots. Layer 4. Planetary network projections. The view pulls back suddenly. The single city shrinks to a point of light. Around it, a sphere appears, the outline of a planet. Other points flash into view across the surface. Dozens, then hundreds, each a copy variant of the star city. Lines link them in a woven grid. No, Lang catches himself. He must not use that banned word in his mind, even if it will not leave his mouth. Lines link them in a wide, even pattern. Triangles, hexagons, great circles wrapping the globe. Currents glow along the links. Waves pulse in timed rhythms. The whole network seems to breathe. Doyle speaks first. "This is not just a city," he says softly. "It is a global system. Every city is a node in something bigger." Emily points to the pulsing waves. "These look like power flows," she says, "or data, or both." The ratios match known efficient grid patterns, but scaled to a whole world. And here, she zooms in on a crossing where 3 great circles meet. These are like control hubs. The code around them is more complex. Lots of feedback loops. Rao taps a control. "We did a rough simulation," he says. "Assume the conduits are energy lines. Assume the hubs are converters or regulators. If you feed raw input into a few major nodes, say, fusion plants or gravitational harvesters, this system can balance load across the entire planet in real time. No blackout, no waste, everything tuned. Sounds ideal," Doyle says. Lang is not convinced. "Systems this large never do just one thing," he says. "Power grids also guide where people live, work, and move. Data grids shape thought. Roads shape culture." He looks at the glowing sphere. "What else does this pattern do?" Emily switches views. Now, instead of energy pulses, they see what the model predicts for human movement. Flows of dots along the city streets and between cities. "If we treat the pattern as a guide for where to put transit lines, roads, and ports," she says, "we get this. People would naturally be drawn along these paths. Everything connects through the hubs." Doyle watches the streams of dots as they trace smooth loops around the planet. "This would change how a civilization thinks about distance," he says. "Every place would be a few steps from every other, in both physical and mental terms. No isolated pockets, no real margins." Rao shrugs. "Many planners would call that a dream. No slums cut off from services, no forgotten towns. Many rulers would also call it a dream," Doyle says quietly. "An entire world mapped and shaped from above." No one speaks for a moment. Then Emily pulls up another panel. "There's more," she says. "In the later sections of the light code, after the main blueprint repeats a few times, a new sequence appears. At first we thought it was just an end marker, but it is longer, with its own checksums. We tried treating it as instructions fed into the model." She hits run. On the virtual globe, the city nodes begin as dim, static shapes. The network lines are present but faint. A new pulse sweeps across the model, starting from a single node. As it touches each city, that city brightens. Its internal structure shifts slightly. Some conduits reroute. The whole grid adjusts. The energy pulses become smoother, more regular. The movement of dots between cities locks into a more exact rhythm. "Activation sequence," Rao says. "Some sort of startup script." "And watch this," Emily adds. A graph appears beside the globe, showing planetary field variation as a line over time. "We loaded in a simple model of a planet's magnetic and gravity fields," she says. "Not exact to Earth, just a generic rocky world. Then we let the activation sequence run. The city network interacts with the fields through its layout, densities, and energy flows. The result, the line on the graph, once flat with small random bumps, begins to form repeating waves. Peaks and troughs match the activation pulses. It modifies the planet's field," Lang says slowly, "not just draws power from it. Shapes it. In our test, it stabilizes certain modes," Rao says. damps earthquakes, smooths magnetic storms, might even act as a shield against some radiation spikes. It makes the planet calmer, more predictable. Doyle stares at the graph, a planet-scale tuning fork, he says, placed through its cities. Lang feels a chill. And what happens to the living things on such a tuned world, he asks. Emily nods. We do not know. The model is too simple, but if the grid locks the fields into very regular patterns, it could affect everything from bird navigation to brain activity. Maybe good, maybe not. Rao brings up one more chart, adaptive modes, spiky lines. The code hints at modes, he says, different activation profiles. It is not just on or off. There are settings, profiles we labeled A through H. Some push the fields toward maximum stability. Others create controlled variants, like slow, deep waves. It is like the system can choose how much change or calm the planet gets. Doyle rubs his forehead. So whoever built this did not just create cities. They built a way to retune an entire world, then left the instructions in stars for others to find. They may not have left it, Lang says. We still do not know who or what set this up, or if they are still around watching. But yes, the function is clear enough. Emily glances at him. We should tell the council about the activation codes, she says. They are already talking about building test districts from the blueprints. They need to know this is not just urban design, it is planet design. Lang thinks of the messages he ignored at breakfast. He thinks of the anchor's excited smile, the developer's polished speech. He thinks of countries where leaders crave control, where a global grid that shapes movement and thought would be seen as a gift. If we share everything, he says, some will rush to turn it on without thinking. If we hide parts, others will try to crack the code in secret. Either way, the risk is high. Doyle gives a short, humorless laugh. This is what myths warned about, he says. Gifts from the sky with hidden costs. Weapons disguised as wonders, or wonders that become weapons in the wrong hands. Maybe it is not meant as either weapon or wonder, Emily says. Maybe it is just a tool, a standard kit, like a default city system shipped with the universe. Lang looks at her. A default that rewrites a planet's fields is not neutral, he says. But yes, tools do not choose how they are used. Users do. Rao's tablet buzzes. He checks it, frowns. World Council link in 10 minutes, he says. Full assembly. They expect a clear recommendation from us. Lang stands, suddenly very aware of the ache in his back, the dry taste in his mouth. All right, he says. Let's decide what we will say. They move back to the main conference dome. Screens line the walls. In a moment, faces from across Earth will fill them. Leaders sitting in gleaming halls, scientists in labs, activists in small home offices, all patched into the feed. Before the link opens, Emily speaks. What do you think, Victor? She asks. Not as a scientist in front of cameras, but as yourself. Should humanity build these cities? Should we ever run that activation sequence? Lang looks at the empty screens. He remembers his younger self, watching stars for the first time through old glass, feeling small but free. He remembers the fake signals he debunked, the hurt in people's faces when he told them their hoped-for messages were noise. He remembers, too, lying awake some nights, wishing the universe would actually answer. Now it has answered, perhaps, not with a greeting but with blueprints. He thinks of Earth as it is now. Stable climate, careful grids, quiet cities, hard-won balance after a chaotic century. He thinks of all the lives that depend on that balance. He also thinks of what the Star City grid, tuned well, could offer. No blackouts, no sudden storms, a soft shield around the planet. I think, he says slowly, that building parts of this with caution could help us. We might learn things that make our own systems better. But I also think turning the full grid on, across the whole planet, when we do not understand it, would be madness. Doyle nods. So our message is, study, test, but do not complete the template yet, he says. Do not snap the last piece into place. Emily looks at both of them. And if the system is designed so that partial builds are unstable, she asks, what if it only behaves when complete? Some codes do that. They are only safe when all modules run together. Lang had thought of that. He had tried not to. Then we face a harder choice, he says. Risk chaos by staying half-built, or risk something else by finishing. But we are not there yet. For now we can insist on isolated tests. A single city built on an uninhabited island, a small network on Mars maybe. Somewhere we can afford to make mistakes. Rao raises a brow. You think governments will wait? He asks. You have more faith than I do. I do not have faith, Lang says. I have leverage. The full decoding keys are in this building, under our control. Without them, any copy of the plans will be partial. Sloppy, easier to prove unsafe when things start to go wrong. Doyle actually smiles. Using the threat of bad construction as a brake on worse construction, he says. I like it. The screens flicker. The World Council link opens. Rows of faces appear. Small flags glow in corners, though borders mean less than they used to. A moderator speaks from Geneva. Dr. Lang, Dr. Park, Professor Doyle, thank you for joining us. You know what we need, a clear picture of what this Tartarian star signal offers and what it risks. The world is watching. Lang steps forward. Light from the screens sharpens his features. He does not feel ready. He doubts he ever will. He shares the facts. He shows the city blueprints, the matches with old maps, the error correction codes that prove this is deliberate data. He explains the global grid, the potential for perfect energy distribution, reduced disasters. He does not hide the activation sequence. He shows the graph of field changes, the modeled effects on a test planet. There is a long pause when he finishes. A leader from a low-lying island nation speaks first. Our people almost lost everything to rising seas, she says. We only survived because the world finally agreed to fix the climate. If this system truly can calm storms and stabilize fields, we cannot turn our back on it. We have a duty to study it. A representative from a major power follows, and we have a duty to our citizens to stay ahead, he says. If we do not build this, others will, and then they control the grid. Better we lead, set rules, than watch from behind. An activist scientist from a rewilded region shakes her head. We just spent a century undoing our last mistake, changing the planet's systems without understanding them, she says. We are still paying for that, and now we think we are wise enough to install a world-scale device built by a species we do not know, for reasons we do not know. Voices overlap. The moderator calls for order. Dr. Lang, she says finally, your recommendation. Lang feels every eye on him. Study it, he says. Model it. Build small parts, in controlled settings, where failure does not mean planetary harm. Share data across borders. Do not let any single power hold this alone. He takes a breath, and do not under any circumstance attempt full planet activation until we know exactly what happens, if ever. Silence again. Professor Doyle? The moderator asks. Doyle leans toward his camera. As a historian, he says, I see patterns. Cultures rise after they reshape their world. They also fall when they overreach. This gift from the star might be the same. Used in fear or in greed, it could lock us into something we cannot escape. Used with care, and maybe never fully used, it could teach us about a universe we only just met. Emily's turn. I became a signal analyst because I wanted to hear something real from the sky, she says. Now that we have, I feel careful. This star did not send us a greeting. It sent us a kit. It does not say who built it. It does not tell us the price. It just offers. She looks straight at the faces on the screens. We do not have to accept the whole offer to be worthy of it. Debate flares again. The Council does not decide everything today. They never do, but they set a first rule. No full build, no full activation without global agreement. Test sites only, with open data. Outside the political nets, things move faster. Within weeks, a coastal nation announces a Star City demonstration zone on an artificial island. Designs flash across screens, gleaming domes, star-shaped parks. A technology company shows off a Tartarian grid-inspired microcity for Mars, promising to follow safety protocols. Meanwhile, in Mount Wilson's quiet hours, Lang, Emily, Rao, and Doyle keep working. They refine the models. They search other inert stars for more library nodes. They argue late into the night about intent. Maybe these templates are like open source code, Emily says one evening, shared for anyone to use. No creator watching, no trap, just a gift. Or like a standard operating manual, Rao replies, given to young civilizations by someone who thinks they know best how a world should run. Doyle sips tea, or like fossils, he says, remnants of a civilization that built this, lived with it, and died. All that remains are their patterns, drifting in dead stars. Lang says little. He thinks about something else. If these plans sat in the sky before Earth, then any habit humans have of building in certain shapes, star forts, domes, radial streets may be part of a larger story. Maybe they were not just human cleverness. Maybe they were distant memories, or instincts shaped by a universe that already stores such forms. He walks outside after midnight. The air is clear. The city below glows softly, laid out by human hands, under human rules. Forests crowd the mountain's flank. The sky is bright with stars, some alive, some long dead, all sending light that carries more than warmth. He looks up toward MWDR 187's place in the sky. He cannot see it with his eyes, but he knows it is there, a dead star that speaks in cities. Behind him, the observatory hums. Inside, screens scroll with plans for new districts, new tests, new political fights. He realizes that the question that woke with the first signal has changed. At first, he asked, who built this? Then, why did they share it? Now, as governments race to claim parts of the design and people dream of living in star-built streets, he hears a deeper question, quiet but sharp. What happens to Earth if humanity completes a pattern older than the planet itself and turns it on? Does the world become safer, calmer, more fair? Or does it become part of something else, a system that was never ours to begin with? The dead star keeps sending. Cycle after cycle, the same blueprints, the same careful pulses, like a patient hand holding out a set of keys. On Mount Wilson, Dr. Victor Lang knows that, for the first time in history, humanity holds the choice to take them, to use them halfway, or to set them down. The universe, as far as he can tell, offers no advice. The world's first test city rises faster than most people think is safe. The chosen site is an artificial island in the Pacific, made from old seawalls and grown coral. It is far from major shipping lanes, far from faults, and most important for the World Council, far from any large population. They name it Kairos Station, but the news nets just call it Star City 1. Old habits die hard. Drones buzz over the site. Live feeds show steel frames climbing, then strange new materials taking shape. Lightweight stone grown from carbon foams, smart glass that darkens on its own. Every line, every curve follows the star blueprint as closely as human builders can manage. Watching from Mount Wilson, Lang feels both pride and dread. He stands with Emily and Doyle in front of a huge screen, tracking build progress. Color overlays show how close the real city is to the ideal plan. Green means a perfect match. Yellow is an approved change. Red is a break. There's more red than I'd like, Emily says, pointing to a corner where supply limits forced changes in the outer bastions. We still don't have their materials. We're guessing. Maybe that's good, Lang answers. The more we guess, the more this becomes ours, not just a copy. Doyle studies the star-shaped walls taking shape. Even these guesses are shaped by the template, he says. The main halls, the domes, the radial streets, they obey the same ratios. The city will still feel like the star design, even if we cut corners. A message banner pops up. World Council Activation Committee, Preliminary Agenda. Emily taps it open. A list of names scrolls by. Engineers, safety officials, politicians, a few scientists. Lang's name is there. They're moving faster than promised, she says. We haven't even finished the deep model, and they're already talking about limited activation trials. Lang's jaw tightens. We knew they would, he says. Once there is a city, there will be pressure to flip the switch. They spent too much money not to. Rao appears in the doorway, holding a tablet. "I've got something," he says, "about the activation code." They move to the side lab. Rao throws the new data onto the wall. "We've been treating the activation sequence as one block," he says, "but I found markers inside it. It's not just a single on command. It's more like a script with stages. Lines of bits scroll by, highlighted in colors. Stage 1, Rao says, pointing to a blue band, brings the local city nodes up. No global sync yet. It just tunes each city to its own local field. Stage 2, he says, pointing to green, links nearby cities into regional clusters. Stage 3, yellow, links the whole planet. That's what we've been modeling. And Stage 4, Emily asks. Rao's mouth twists. Stage 4 is short, but dense, he says. Strange patterns. It only runs if certain checks are passed. What checks? Lang asks. Rao zooms in on a small section of code, repeating blocks that compare input values to stored thresholds. It looks like the system checks field stability, node accuracy, maybe even traffic patterns, he says. If the world doesn't match certain conditions, Stage 4 never fires. So we don't know what Stage 4 does, Doyle says. Not yet, Rao answers. Models break down. Too many unknowns. Lang stares at the colored bands. So we can argue for this, he says. If the council insists on a test, we push for Stage 1 only. Local tuning. No global link. Emily nods. And no Stage 4, she says firmly. Not until we understand it. They do not get to decide alone. 2 weeks later, Lang sits in a room on the ground floor of a glass tower in Geneva. The World Council Activation Committee faces him across a crescent table. Behind them, a vast window looks out over a quiet lake and a clean city that has taken a century to fix. Screens show live feeds from Kairos station. From above, the new city looks like a star set in blue water, bastions, domes, and a central hall like a crowned heart. A chairperson speaks. "Dr. Lang, thank you for coming," she says. "As you know, governments and citizens across the world are watching Kairos station. They want answers. Is it safe? When will it turn on? Should it turn on? Nothing is fully safe," Lang says, "but some things are clearly more risky than others. Your own code teams will confirm what I'm about to say." He explains the 4 stages. He shows the models, how Stage 1 shapes only local fields, how Stage 2 and 3 extend the pattern, how Stage 4 is unknown. Our recommendation, he says, is clear. If you must test, limit activation to Stage 1 on Kairos station only. Do not link it to any other city. Do not push further stages. A representative from the island nation that hosts the project speaks. "Our people volunteered our waters and some of our funds for this test," she says. "We did it because we believed in a safer world. If you tell us Stage 1 is a low risk compared to the possible gain, we will accept that. But if you are hiding Stage 4 from us," "We're not hiding it," Lang says. "We don't understand it. That's the truth. Pushing an unknown global switch with 8 billion lives in the balance would be wrong." The representative from a large tech block leans in. "Stage 1 only may not give us meaningful data on the full system," he says. "If we stop there, we risk wasting the chance. Another power may not be so slow. They could build in secret and run all stages before we do." Lang holds his gaze. "If someone is reckless," he says, "your answer is not to be equally reckless. Your answer is to build trust and transparency so the world rejects any hidden full build." Voices overlap. The chair calls for order. After hours of argument, they reach a fragile decision. Stage 1 activation only, on Kairos station alone, with full live data shared to all major observatories and research hubs. The date is set, 3 months from now. Back at Mount Wilson, the countdown becomes a second clock in everyone's minds. They throw more power at the models. They simulate local field changes, possible side effects, strange couplings. They talk to biologists about how small shifts in magnetic fields might affect animals, people, electronics. Most experts say Stage 1 looks mild. "Safer than early fusion tests ever were," one physicist says. "You burn more risk every time you get in a car." That doesn't comfort Lang. He walks through the visualization dome again and again. watching Kairos station's virtual twin flicker, run, flicker, run. Each time, the model shows the same thing: a slight smoothing of microfield noise, a bit more stable power use. No big shocks. You're stalling in your mind, Emily tells him one late night, when they're the only ones left. Yes, he answers. Good, she says. We need someone to stall, or we'd already have volunteers lining up to sleep under a stage 4 grid. He gives her a tired smile. Where do you stand? He asks. Would you live in Kairos station during stage 1? She thinks about it. Yes, she says. If they let me run sensors in my own head and in every street, if something goes strange, I want to see it first. Doyle, joining them on a call, laughs softly. History students are already begging for field trips, he says. They want to walk in a pattern that came from a dead star before Earth existed. I cannot blame them. I would go too. Lang doesn't answer. On the day of activation, Kairos station looks complete but raw. Satellite images show white and silver shapes rising from the deep blue. The central hall glows faintly inside from soft artificial suns. The outer bastions hold water treatment plants and small solar farms, backing up the main grid. Few hundred people live there now. Engineers, safety teams, some scientists, and a dozen cultural observers. No families yet, no children. Mount Wilson's main dome turns into a control room. World feeds cover the walls. One shows the ocean around Kairos, calm. Another shows the central plaza, neat and empty. Another shows the sky above, clear. Lang, Emily, Rao, and Doyle stand together with other staff. The timer counts down. Final check. A voice says from Geneva. All global observatories online. Local sensors at Kairos reading normal. Activation key synchronized. Rao whispers it's just stage 1, as much to himself as to anyone else. In Kairos station's control core, a round room beneath the central hall, a human operator sits at a console. The system could run itself, but the World Council insisted on a person at the key. Her face appears on the screen, tense, focused. This is Dr. Lena Afolayan, Kairos systems lead, she says, confirming we are ready for local activation, stage 1 only. The chairperson from the council appears in a split view. History will remember this day, she says. We step into a design older than our world, with full awareness and consent. Dr. Afolayan, proceed. Lena's hand hovers over a pad, initiating stage 1 sequence, she says. 3, 2, 1. Her finger presses down. On Mount Wilson's instruments, a tiny shiver runs through the graphs. The field lines around Kairos bend a little, then settle into new curves. The local grid hum rises in a smooth wave. Power use shifts as the Tartarian pattern takes over distribution. For a few seconds, data spikes as sensors register change. Then everything calms. Emily scans the plots. Voltage stable, she says. Field variance within predicted range. No sudden peaks. Rao calls out numbers. Power loss down 12%. Clean. No harmonic noise yet. On the screen showing Kairos Central Plaza, nothing obvious happens. The buildings stand where they stood. The sky stays blue. A light wind moves across the open space, stirring small flags. If someone walked into the plaza right now with no warning, they would not know anything had changed, except perhaps in how it feels. Minutes pass. Lena's voice comes through, slightly shaky but steady. Local sensors green across the board, she says. Temperature, pressure, EM levels all normal. A few small shifts in compass readings as expected. No sign of resonance or feedback loops. Doyle exhales. Perhaps the first step was always meant to be gentle, he says. A handshake, not a grab. Lang does not relax yet. Watch for slow drift, he says. These systems might take hours to show their true shape. They watch. An hour passes. Then 2. The data stays boring, which is exactly what Lang had hoped for. Tiny improvements in power efficiency. Slightly smoother field readings. No clear harm. No clear miracle either. Just better tuning. In the central plaza, people begin to come out. Some stand still, eyes closed, as if trying to sense something. Others laugh nervously. A few look disappointed. as if they had expected lightning or visions. A child's voice cuts through one of the feeds. Someone brought a teenager against the rules, but no one has the heart to scold. It feels quiet, the child says, like when a storm passes but the leaves are still moving. Lang hears the words and files them away. Human senses may pick up what instruments miss. As the second hour ends, a small alert pings on Reo's console. Microfield anomaly, he reads. Not dangerous, just odd. He brings the graph up on the wall. A faint ripple moves through the local field map, like a pebble dropped in a pond. It starts near the central hall, travels through the streets, bounces off the bastions, then fades. Reflections in the tuning, Emily says. We saw that in the model sometimes. The anomaly repeats, this time weaker. Lang frowns. Time it, he says. Rao measures. Period is 11.3 minutes, he says slowly. The room goes silent. That's the signal period, Emily says. The time it takes MWDR 1 wait, 87 to send one cycle of the blueprint. They share a look. The city is ringing, Doyle says softly, like a bell struck by its own design. The period of the strike matches the period of the light that carried the design here. The ripple is tiny, harmless in itself. Instruments at Kairos barely show it. If they had not been looking closely, they might have missed it. But to Lang it feels like a whisper from the pattern, saying, I remember the star that wrote me. He pushes the thought aside and focuses on data. Are there any changes in human readings? He asks. Heart rates, brain scans. The volunteers are wired up. Emily checks. Small shifts in some alpha waves during the ripple, she says. But within normal range. Could be nerves. Could be people reacting to the idea of being in a city tuned to a dead star. Or Doyle says, could be the field touching them in a very gentle way. They log everything. By the end of the day, the World Council declares Stage 1 activation a success. No disasters. No strange storms. No vanishing islands. Just a slightly more efficient, slightly calmer patch of world. The news nets explode with carefully chosen phrases. Historic, safe first step, promise of a tuned planet. Developers release new videos showing Star District concepts. A few loud voices online shout that it's all a hoax, that nothing really happened. Lang returns to his quarters that night, both relieved and unsettled. He sits by his window, staring out at the dark mountain and the fusion glow below. Stage 1 worked, which means pressure will build for Stage 2. He knows it already. He can almost hear the speeches. If local tuning is safe, why not link 2 cities? 10. Why not use the gift fully? He rubs his eyes. His console chimes. A private message from Lena at Kairos. He opens it. A short video plays. Lena stands on a balcony of the central hall. Night around her. The city below is lit by soft, even light. The ocean is a black ring beyond. She speaks quietly. Victor, Emily, Rao, Professor Doyle, she says. I wanted to send you this off the official record. The reports you're getting are true. Stage 1 looks stable. No big surprises. But there's something the numbers don't show. She turns the camera toward the plaza. It feels ordered, she says. Not in a bad way. In a everything fits way. Walking these streets, you don't feel lost. Even if you haven't learned the map. You always sort of know where the center is. It's like the city guides you without you thinking about it. She swings the camera back. I don't know if that's the grid, the architecture, or just human bias, she says. I grew up in messy suburbs. Maybe any well-planned city would feel this way. But I thought you'd want to hear it. She hesitates. There's one more thing. During the little ripples. Yes, I felt them. You were going to ask, that kid was right. It feels like the air gets very clear for a second. My thoughts line up. Then it passes. She looks straight into the camera. If this is what Stage 1 does, she says, I understand why some people will want Stage 2. I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying it's tempting. The video ends. Lang stares at the dark screen. Tempting. That is the danger he has feared more than sudden disaster. If the system had caused clear harm, people would back away. If it had done nothing, they would lose interest. But a subtle, pleasant improvement, that will be hard to resist. He sends the video to Emily and Doyle. Doyle replies first. "This is how empires start," he writes. "Not with fire from the sky, but with small comforts that people come to love until they cannot imagine living without them." Emily's message is shorter. "We need more sensors," she writes. "In people, in animals, in plants. If the grid feels this way at stage 1, what will stage 2 feel like?" The next week's answer part of that question. Under mounting pressure, the Council opens limited talks about linking Kairos to a second test site, a small planned town in a quiet desert. They call it Phase 2 discussion, nothing more. But Lang knows where it leads. He fights where he can. He releases papers showing the 11.3-minute ripples, the small brainwave shifts. He argues that any change to human thought patterns must be studied deeply before extending the grid. He appears on news panels, calm and firm, never shouting, always returning to the same point: understanding first, expansion later. Some call him cautious, others call him a coward, holding back progress. Meanwhile, Emily and Rao keep scanning the sky. They find 2 more inert stars with faint, damaged patterns that look like variant city templates. Different ratios, different grid layouts. One seems suited for a world with stronger gravity, another for a world with 2 main continents and a deep ocean rift. "Logri is real," Emily says, staring at the new maps. "This isn't a one-off gift. It's a whole catalog." Doyle, looking at the variants, sees something else. "These different patterns would shape different kinds of civilization," he says. "Some more central, some more distributed, some with strong cores, some with flexible edges. Whoever made this library thought a lot about social structure, not just power lines." Lang feels the same questions crowd his mind again. Who built this? Why did they think they had the right to shape worlds this way? Or did they see it as kindness, giving young species a tested way to skip painful chaos? One night, long after the staff has gone home, he stands alone in the visualization dome. The system projects Earth as it is now, a globe with its own cities, its own messy grids. Then, at his command, it lays the full Tartarian pattern over it, stage 3 style, every city turned into a node, every node linked. The result is beautiful and frightening. Lines glow where no roads exist yet. Current future city sites light up as if they are seeds, waiting to be grown. Other places go dark. Old towns and ways of life vanish under the math. He switches the overlay off. The plain Earth looks simple, fragile, and alive. He realizes that the central question is no longer only about who began this, or what happens if we flip the final switch. A new question joins them. How much of ourselves are we willing to give up to fit into a pattern not born on this world? Kairos Station keeps humming at stage 1. Its people talk about strange clarity and comfort. Some begin to write songs about the way the streets meet in the central hall. In a few years, history books may mark this as the place where Earth first stepped into line with a design older than the planet. For now, though, the choice about stage 2 and beyond is still open. The dead star in the quiet part of the sky keeps flashing its careful instructions every 11.3 minutes. The universe, as always, stays silent about what it thinks should happen next. That part, Lang understands with a weight that feels both terrible and fair, is up to humanity. The year after Kairos Station's first switch feels longer than any in Lang's life. Stage 1 there stays stable. No disasters. No strange storms. The small ripples keep running every 11.3 minutes, like a quiet pulse under normal life. People who live in the city begin to describe it with the same strange words: clear, guided, calm. Surveys show that residents sleep better, get lost less often, and report feeling more focused when walking the main streets. There is no proof the grid causes this. It could be the careful design. It could be fresh sea air and good services. But it adds pressure. If this is what a tiny piece of the pattern gives us, a leader says on a WorldNet talk show, imagine what a full planetary grid could do. No wasted power, no deadly storms. A stable field for everyone. Is it right to hold back that gift? Lang watches from Mount Wilson, arms folded, jaw tight. Emily reads the comments under the video. A lot of people agree with her, she says, especially in places that still fear big storms. They see the star grid as a safety belt. Doyle, joining by link, shakes his head. Safety belts are tested 1,000 times before you trust them, he says. We have run, a few dozen careful models and one very limited trial. That is not enough to hang the whole planet on. Rao brings up a new report. Here is the real threat, he says quietly. We intercepted planning notes from a private consortium. They've bought land in a desert region. They say they will build a Tartarian-inspired city and run their own version of Stage 2, off-grid with patched code. No council oversight. Lang swears under his breath. If they trigger a bad resonance, he says, they could cause local quakes, field spikes, who knows what else. They might even mess with our ability to read the original star signals. Emily scrolls further. They already have investors, she says. They're calling it free research and saying the council is too slow. Doyle sighs. This is what happens when a tool this powerful arrives in a world used to fast profit, he says. If the careful do not move, the reckless will. The choice that has hung over them since the first blueprint appeared now sharpens. If they keep holding back on global activation, others may rush ahead in chaos. If they lead, they may end up pushing the planet into a pattern from a dead star. The World Council calls for a final, full review. They name it the Reconstruction Protocol Summit. The title makes Lang uneasy. It sounds like we already chose to rebuild the universe's city, he says. Or at least a part of it, Emily replies. They want rules. We have to decide if there is any form of this grid we can live with. The summit meets in a ring-shaped hall high above Geneva. Glass walls look onto clouds and distant mountains. Screens float between segments of the ring, showing Kairos Station, the desert project site, and the light steps of MWDR 187. Delegates from every region sit at curved desks. Scientists and historians have a separate bench. Lang, Emily, Rao, and Doyle share one row. The chairperson opens with plain words. Humanity has been handed, or has found, a set of designs older than our world, she says. We have tested a small part. Others plan to test more, with or without us. Today we must set a binding world protocol. How, or if, the Tartarian grid may be used. She turns to the scientist bench. Dr. Lang, she says, we have heard your caution. We have also heard from those who fear being left behind. You asked for more data. You have had a year. Has anything changed your mind? Lang stands. He feels the curve of the hall behind him, like a very small ring in a very large pattern. In some ways, yes, he says. In others, no. He brings up the latest graphs from Kairos. Stage 1 has stayed stable, he says. Power use is more efficient. Local field noise is lower. Residents report small positive effects on mood and clarity. We see the regular 11.3-minute field ripples. We see tiny changes in brainwave patterns during those ripples, but nothing outside normal safe ranges. He swaps to another set of images. We have also watched the desert groups test construction, he says. They are weeks from activation. Their code is sloppy. They try to copy Stage 2 from leaked fragments. Our models suggest they risk sharp, local field spikes. We have warned them. They have not stopped. Murmurs run around the ring. Lang lifts a hand. So yes, he says, this has changed my mind about something. Doing nothing is no longer safe. It creates a space for dangerous copies. We need a clear public protocol. He taps a control. A title appears. Reconstruction Protocol, Draft. He reads, Point 1. The Tartarian Grid shall not be activated at global scale on Earth in the present era. Stage 3, and any deeper unknown stages, including Stage 4, are forbidden for planetary use. Voices rise at once. The chair calls for quiet. Point 2. Lang continues. Local and regional tests, Stages 1 and 2, may be used only under open world-level review. All code and data must be shared. No private or national hidden runs. He looks up, eyes hard. Point 3. Before any Stage 2 test, we must run a full activation of Stages 1 through 4 on an uninhabited body, a moon, an asteroid, or an artificial sphere, somewhere we can watch without risking life. Screens shift to show candidates, small moons, hollow stations. Only there, Lang says, can we safely see what this system truly does at full strength. Only then can future generations, if they choose, revisit the ban on a global grid. A delegate from a storm-prone region stands. "And what of our needs now?" she asks. "We are still hit by floods and cyclones. If Stage 2 could help link our coastal cities into a safer system, do we not have the right to try?" Emily steps beside Lang. "We think Stage 2 could help," she says. "We also think it could create new kinds of dependence. If your survival depends on a pattern you do not fully control or understand, how free are you?" Doyle joins them. "As a historian," he says, "I will add this. It is not wrong to use old tools. It is dangerous to give any tool the power to touch everything at once. The Tartarian Grid was made for some world, maybe many worlds. We do not know their stories. Until we do, we should keep this design at the scale where we can still step away." Rao lifts another graph. "There is one more reason," he says. "We found faint sidebands in the activation code. At full Stage 4, the grid seems to send a return signal. Not just adjust fields, but radiate a new pattern outwards, like a reply." The hall goes very still. "A reply to whom?" a delegate asks. "We do not know," Rao says. "Maybe no one. Maybe it's just a side effect, a burst of ordered light into space. But we cannot rule out that some part of this system is meant to say, 'This planet has completed reconstruction.' We should not make that announcement until we are sure we want to answer whoever might be listening, or until we are sure no one is listening at all." That thought settles like lead. The chair folds her hands. "You propose, then," she says, "that we accept some use of the grid, but refuse to complete the pattern on Earth, and refuse to send any full return." "Yes," Lang says, "we propose that we treat this not as a gift to obey, but as a library to study. We build small, we learn much, we leave the whole planet's pattern our own, for now." Debate fills the hall. Some argue that a ban will only push use underground. Others say any use at all is giving in to outside influence. A few powerful voices demand a vote for full activation within decades. Through it all, Lang and his team repeat the same line. Choice now is more important than control now. In the end, the vote is closer than Lang had hoped, but clear enough. The Reconstruction Protocol passes. Global activation Stage 3 and unknown Stage 4 on Earth is banned for at least 100 years, unless overturned by a supermajority of future leaders, after new evidence. Local and regional stages are allowed only as open experiments, with shared code and sensors. A separate program launches to build a test. Shell, a hollow sphere in deep space, made of inert material, seeded with copies of the Tartarian nodes. There, Stage 4 will be run, away from any world. The Desert Consortium is ordered to pause. Under pressure from the Council, their investors, and public fear, they agree, grudgingly, to fold their work into the open program. Back at Mount Wilson, under a clear night sky, Lang reads the final text of the protocol. Emily stands beside him, hands in her pockets. "You look more tired than glad," she says. "I am glad," he answers. "I am glad," he answers. This could have gone very differently. We could be days away from someone flipping the whole world into an unknown mode. He looks up, but we also just wrote a law telling our grandchildren what they may not do. I hope they forgive us if we turn out to be too careful. I hope they forgive us even more if we are not careful enough. Doyle's face appears on a small screen by the door. "History will judge," he says. "It always does. But they will also remember that, when handed a pattern that could swallow our world, some of us said, 'Wait, that matters.' The test shell takes years to build. It floats far beyond Mars, a dark ball laced with sensors. Inside, small city modules mimic Kairos and other designs, but no one lives there. Robots roll its halls. Instruments line every wall. When Stage 4 finally runs there, Lang is old. He watches from the same Mount Wilson dome where Emily first showed him the star steps. The activation sequence feeds into the shell's nodes. For a moment, nothing visible changes. Then the shell's own field begins to hum. Sensors show a complex dance of tiny forces inside. The pattern reshapes itself, then settles into a layered rhythm. Outside, telescopes see a faint new signal leave the shell, a tightly structured light pattern, different from MWDR-187's, but clearly related. A reply, or at least a reflection. No star answers, not in Lang's lifetime. He dies with that question still open. Years pass. Kairos station grows. Other small Tartarian test zones rise on Earth, each under close watch. Some people love them, some avoid them. Earth never flips the global switch. The dead star keeps sending, cycle after cycle, long after the people who first read its message are gone. Near the end of his life, in a letter he never finishes, Lang tries to put into words what this all meant. Emily finds the draft later, in a folder marked personal. In it, Lang writes, "We used to think our cities were just our own. Rome and Shanghai, Lagos and Delhi, raised from mud and sweat and habit. Then we found out that some of their shapes match a pattern older than Earth, carried to us as light. Some saw this as proof that we are small, that our work is just copying. I do not agree. A library does not make readers small. A template does not erase the hand that adapts it. Whoever first built these grid cities, whatever they were, did something strange and generous. They kept their designs alive in dying stars, for no clear reward. We do not know if their cities saved them, or destroyed them, or did something in between. We do not know if they hoped others would follow, or simply left a trace. We had a choice. We still do. To rush into their pattern, to reject it completely, or to stand between, learning, borrowing, resisting, and adding our own lines. We chose the middle road. Maybe that is cowardice. Maybe it is wisdom. Maybe it is something new in the universe. A civilization that can hear a very old instruction and say, "Thank you. We will think about it." Emily closes the file. Outside, the stars shine over Mount Wilson. Among them, the faint, steady flicker of MWDR-187 continues, holding its city in light, patient beyond any human span. On Earth, in Kairos and in old towns with crooked streets, people move under skies shaped mostly by their own past choices, with a subtle new rhythm beneath their feet. When they walk certain patterns, the universe offers no clear verdict. The dead star never says, "You did it right," or "You did it wrong." It only keeps sending blueprints for cities, older than the planet, steady as a clock. What humanity built from them, and what it refused to build, has become part of Earth's own story now. No longer just something given from above, but something argued over, tested, limited, and lived in. The Reconstruction Protocol holds. The pattern in the sky remains, and the answer to the oldest question, the one that drove Lang from the start, the one no signal could fully solve, stays simple and hard. In a universe full of templates, what we choose to keep building and what we choose to leave unbuilt is what makes us who we are.